Okay, let's go. This is a big deal that a narcissistic person has to cope with. The void means that I do not exist. If other people don't address me, don't see me, don't appreciate, don't admire me, I do not exist. And so, renouncing myself, I renounce my self-consciousness to come and create a dream in the path of self-realization. So the void is paramount and it is terrible. No success can ever fulfill that. No money, no power, no beautiful love, no wonderful actresses or success. Nothing can fill the void of these four people. There is no inner guide, but the others, what do the others do? And what do the others want from me? So he just needs to feel self. And this is the engine. The engine of somebody that walks around, struts and frets his hour upon the stage of that external war. This is Macbeth. The most malignant, narcissistic, Macbeth. Okay? Out with him. Life is just a shout. It is a faith. The struts and frets his hour, saying, and there is no more. Shakespeare, they picked the perfect, malignant narcissist. Okay? So, that's his known being capable of choosing somebody's loneliness and confusion and insensitivity. No relationship, no system of understanding my needs. He never close to his needs, nor to the needs of other people. And he is in disillusion because every time he creates false images of other people too, giving them the task to be the best ever because they deserve to know and to be at dinner with the best people ever in the world. So they do create you. They don't have you at their table. They do create your seat at the table, but you do not exist. And cynicism, you know, and sadness and depression. And most of all, they do not belong to anything. There is no family. There is no nation. There is no group of friends. Nothing that can be the reward for their maternal holding that they never had. A Winnicott that I really loved, he was a psychotherapist that worked in the Tavistock clinic in London after the Second World War, and he was taking care of kids, of the people that died in war, and he noticed that these children that were not being held and mirrored and confirmed, they developed so much of this void. And also the studies in the orphans places in Russia or anywhere, they saw that children that were well fed and clean, but never held. Nobody was speaking to them. They grew a cognitive retard, and they developed many psychopathologies, included malignant narcissism. So narcissism is a illness coming from not being really loved and recognized. I just wanted this evening you to understand that these nasty and horrible people, they had a process, they went through a process that built them like that. Okay, and in period where wars or lack of food, of security, of family, they grow more narcissistic persons because there's not this primary holding, understanding, and telling the baby, oh, you jumped here up and down 300 times. I've never seen such a beautiful face. Bravo. And that's the primary narcissism that has to be fed. If baby has to grow as a person that is capable of self-realization, self-pride, self-achievement. Okay? Well, narcissism is a pattern of defensive system. Who knows people that live in this fortress? Do you want to tell something? No?
Not really.
A narcissistic person spends his time protecting himself, okay? And his expectations, his failed self, they want to be there to compensate for this deep sense of inequities. Okay, so there's arrogance, lack of empathy, and exploitative relationships. I think that all of you that have met a narcissistic persons have been, in a way, exploited because you have a position, you cook well, you dress well, you have money, you have acquaintances, contacts. Oh, I have a lot of contacts. And you get accepted. Okay? So this is the wheel of the defensive system. They really believe they're special and that they deserve anything special. They are very envious because the others, all the time, they show that they can go to self-realization, that they have motivations, that they have a heart that they have not. And then they have color sentences. Oh, he said, where are the queen of Italy? What is?
What about? What about the manipulation? Manipulation.
Yes.
So where does that fit in the
This is about exploiting the others. Well, I cannot come to you and tell you, and now let me know what to do because I want to exploit you. So what do I have to do?
To build a profile
I must find your weak point and nurture it. And then when I have the, when I'm ready to have the fish, then I draw the fish and then I cook it. So manipulation is smart in a way because they perfectly know that they cannot come to you and tell you, I want to take all your money or I want to take your husband. It's not nice. They won't do that because they're smart. So I need time and I need to go around. I don't know if I have answered to your question.
Okay. That maybe was one of the, could be one of the things.
It is, you know, manipulation is about everything.
I think it's transversal.
It is about everything. Because it's about if I want that other people believe and confirm that I am special, I must throw their attention there. Because it's not enough that I think that I'm special. I want to all of you think that I'm special. And then envy. Envy means that I want to hurt you and destroy you because you're so smart and beautiful. And I feel I'm nothing. So I have to manipulate you if I want to destroy you. And two.
Yeah, I have that like, I'll have that.
Thank you.
My question is, if I understand you, narcissism comes from the way you are treated in your childhood.
Not only.
Yeah.
Not
Is,
only.
My question is, I mean, we are born with a certain kind of character, with certain traits, we like inherent elements of our character. And is there a kind of character or character traits that make this kind of lack of empathy that a child has experienced that then can come in, that can be a narcissistic person afterwards? Is there a kind of character trait that makes it easier for this to happen?
Narcissism is all the other personality disorders. They have to do with personality that is a pattern, it is a structure, it is a composition of elements. So it is a multifactorial epigenetics. Epigenetics is not about just genetics, so just not about our code, but the expression of the code even before we're born. So science and neuroscience nowadays have proved that many factors, environmental, genetical, epigenetical, can give birth to certain types of temperament and character, where temperament are non-movable traits of person, and character instead is movable. It can change through growing of age. In this multifactorial, we take into account the 3 generational therapy, the ancestor therapy, the social therapy, the system therapy, and the psychodynamic, the therapy of the deep, the behavioral therapy, and many others, because as it is a multifactorial origin, so there are many of them that can come together and give birth to a certain type of temperament since very early childhood. And when it is so deeply rooted, obviously it's more difficult to treat them and to change something. And if also parents are narcissistic persons, the thing becomes very difficult because there is a total identification with the values of the family. And the values are the core foundation of any human being. Everything goes around values. So if my values and my family values are about prevailing on others, no matter what price they have to pay. And if my peoples or, group of friends, they are kind of, say, a Ku Klux Klan family, it's quite difficult to let them know that it's not fair and it doesn't work. And remember that isolation is the punishment of this kind of disorder. And you become so terrible to yourself and to others that you generate hatred, you generate disillusion, you generate wars. Okay. As for treating this very difficult type of personality, we usually work in teams, not only one, because if you are the only therapist, they are going to destroy you. So we have discovered that teams can offer different perspective of therapy. Does not have just one target. It has many targets, and his attention is splintered. What we want to provoke in order to try to disidentify him from his design of distraction. And we should have said that distraction is his only design because he's nothing left to feel alive. There are people that feel alive when they kill, only when they kill, only when they destroy, when they take despair. Okay, and it's not just me. It's despair, it's inner despair, there's nothing else for me to do to feel that I'm alive. And there's no sense in this life. The lack of sense and orientation make them really persistent in performing this kind of purpose. It is a purpose, and it's a very negative one. But that's because their consciousness, their inner ego, is collapsed. There is no consciousness there. I don't think you have ever embraced a narcissistic person. I did, and there is nothing. You embrace there is a body, and you feel the soul. Okay.
So I wanted to see what you thought about this because I've had experiences with narcissistic people both on the friend side and the partner side. What I found that is that they manipulate through guilt. Is that something that you wouldn't? For example, so one of the things that narcissistic people do is they manipulate through guilt. So if they understand how you are, then they use your weak points to manipulate, make you feel guilty, right?
Yep.
So it's very important to set very healthy boundaries until, if they really push those healthy boundaries, you have to then stop, right? You have to disassociate yourself. But do you find that guilt is something that they use as a weapon? That's what I thought. I just wanted to see that.
Do you remember when I spoke to you about the attraction between the depressive person and a narcissistic person? The depressive person always feels guilty for anything, even for creation. So how about the world that the depressive person is always guilty? So there is this attraction, and the narcissistic person smells you. He says, go. After 20 and you know, this attractive power, and that happens. So yes, boundaries. If you can, I give an example. We are going to speak about the different types of narcissism until morning. And a film that really was amazing was The Silence of the Lambs. There, a sociopathic and malignant narcissist can take a very experienced professional and get her into his state and have her to do what he had designed to do at first. So, boundaries. And it's almost impossible because in that case, I want to explain that by another viewpoint. Neurosciences. They have shown that in the brain of sociopathic and malignant narcissism, the amygdala system does not exist anymore. This means that the associations between the reptilian brain and the neocortex are over. And this means that a person is not capable anymore to reflect upon the consequences of his actions and cannot mentalize. And all that he wants to do, and he wants you to suffer. It is the only way that a malignant, narcissistic, and a psychopathic type of personality can have as his life service. And also the hippocampus structures become smaller and smaller and smaller. So there is no regulation of emotions, feelings. So when the neuroscientists studied the brain of these people, they saw that there is a correspondence between the structure of the brain and what's happening outside your life. And that's very interesting. And it makes a difference between a malignant narcissism and, say, a covert, nice narcissistic, where his hippocampus, his amygdala system, they're okay, that they are not okay anymore in the sociopathic. And I saw that because 2 years ago and 3 years ago, I was in a community of people that had gone through jail, and they had addiction disorders, and they had psychopathic disorders. A few of them were not severe, and I could talk to them. And I would be very grateful about the exercises that I introduced to them to have them feel better. My first verse was, if they feel better with themselves, and we're going to see that the first step that we have to do with a narcissistic person is, can you finally feel better with yourself? This is the first crucial step that we have to do with a narcissistic person who hates himself. So I have given you an example of what may you to be very wise and understand before that your boundaries are going to be wiped away in many cases. And you must know that before. So take knowledge about my limits. And when I work as a psychotherapist, I always tell myself, can you cope with this? Or you will better send this in psychiatry. Can I do that? If I realize it's too much for me. And then maybe 1 year later, I would be able to go through that. But if I'm not now, I prefer to be humble and understand that that person is going to be swaying. Okay. I'll wait because there is another question.
Is there are people that are not that are malignantly narcissistic, but the ones that are more normally narcissistic, because I have really malignant narcissism, and I know what that means, it means to death. Is that what that means? Malignant.
Yeah.
It leads to their own death or death.
You mean average?
So is he, she aware that they are narcissistic? And are they aware of the harm that they do to others first? Which you kind of, answered with the Silence of the Lambs thing. But I was curious on a medium average level.
Yeah. Just one question at a time. Thank you. Every personality disorder finds a person that is totally in agreement with his or his author. Say they totally agree with themselves. They are egosyntonic. So there's no difference. They cannot see themselves. They cannot get it. Because otherwise they wouldn't be personality disorders. No. If they are personality disorders, that means that they are pervasive. They are gathering a full personality in there. And it's very difficult to find a healthy part, very difficult. And we have to do that, that we can contact to speak to that small homeopathic part that it's not psychotic or, and we have to find it and start from that and see how that works. And if it is acceptable from all the rest. So, if you tell this to a narcissistic person, he would fire you from work in 1 second. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and then the second. Did you have another question?
The second was, are they the ones that usually seek out therapy, or are they sent by their loved ones?
They don't speak out.
Another
need therapy.
Another very good question.
Go to therapy, but not for.
Listen. It is a very good question.
Yeah.
A narcissistic person does not need you. They do not need therapy. So they usually sent by exhausted wives, by their co-workers or their bosses or someone that is fed up with them and cannot explain that because they would not listen, and they would send them to you and they would look at you and they just glancing you, they are just telling you you're not enough for me. You don't look even nice. What about your makeup? And what about your dress? And what about how many schools have you done? I have one more. They challenge you all.
They go to therapy sometimes, but they can manipulate the therapist.
No, they can. No. It's not that they can. They do.
They manipulate. I've been there. I know.
Is there a difference between the male and female brain here, or the experience?
Yes, there are. In neurosciences, there are differences. And when we are going to see how our society has become narcissistic, I have just given images just to start the difference between male and female narcissism. Since women since women have socially grown, narcissism has become a challenge for them too, because it's very demanding. And so we have to cope with success and being young and beautiful and sexy, even 90 years old.
But society also judges us on our accomplishments, which can lead to.
Can you just say,
She has the microphone.
But-
If you wanted to
but
say-
this lady was first.
Yeah, okay. No, please. Society also judges us on our accomplishments and, our perceived measuring up to the societal, pressures that we have to encounter these days. So doesn't that lead us towards narcissistic behaviors? In a way.
We have started in the universities to see something really astonishing in well-off families. Food disorder were arising and they are now paralyzed and they have a base in narcissism because women were in the backyard before and afterwards there were many pressures on women that had to keep their old role and together to have a new role and to be perfect in both. Otherwise it would be out. And that is really too much. And I tell you, I'm a strong student, I read all the time. And sometimes I look at my house and say, whoever cleans this? Because 7 days a week are not enough to cope with everything, with old parents, with kids, with friends, study, hospital, and everything. It's really too much. And so either you understand that you have limits and you accept. Acceptance is a healing for a narcissistic person. Once a good therapist has brought a narcissistic person to understand his limits, it's done. He can start to heal because he's without boundaries. And how many times have you heard invitations to be unstoppable? What about red lights? Do we have to be unstoppable everywhere, even while driving? Or if I see the red light, do I have to stop? Then I lose myself see it because I have stopped. It's so stupid, but that's it. Yeah, please.
Can the society be narcissistic? For instance, I'm thinking of South Korea, in which children have a lot of challenges. So are they all narcissistic? And then the other thing is regarding the social networks. Can the social networks make society becoming narcissistic?
Absolutely. They have a big impact on our brain and on our behaviors and on our mindsets. Actually, I have a slide there of this. I will show you just a few pictures because we're nurturing narcissism, social narcissism, everywhere in the world. It's a transcultural event. We're just feeding that. Okay. Last question and then I'll go on.
So I am the oldest of 3 daughters. My mother was the narcissist in our family. She had done so much healing, 20 plus years of therapy. I got to a very good place with it. I found my forgiveness. One question we understood. She treated the 3 of us completely different. So I was the brunt of the emotional and physical abuse. My middle sister was largely ignored. And my youngest sister was treated like an angel. And I've never been able to explain to myself why that was, whether it was just a method of manipulation to maybe pit us against each other so we couldn't band together against her. Or was it something about my personality that made me more vulnerable to her?
Well, flexibility is not an illness. And maybe mom have different ideas about the three children. But what I can see is that you have been very sensitive to this. And maybe you have developed a sense of injustice. Is it true?
Yes, for a very long time. I was
Yeah.
resentful.
Yeah. Very resentful. That maybe you should talk to her, not to be afraid, and tell her.
We haven't spoken for a decade. We don't have contact.
Okay. I give you a suggestion if I can. Write her a very angry letter. And tell her about all your resentment and put all your energy in that letter. Because otherwise that energy will stay inside you and give pollution to your feelings. You do not deserve it.
No, and like I said, I've done many years of work, and I have healed around most of it. Just this one lingering question as to why any narcissist would treat 3 people in their family differently. What is their motivation to do that?
I don't know your mom, so I can't tell if she's a narcissist or not. But what I can recommend is to take care of yourself and no longer of your mom. Thank you. Can we go on because yes, we have night persons that are not morning persons. That's what I just want to show you how narcissistic people behave. You see, this picture is very interesting because everyone is mirroring himself. So he is the very best, he deserves the best, and his capacities are overestimated. If I have a narcissistic engineer, I will take care in detail with that he will build the most beautiful bridge in Florence to cross the Arno in many points. I want to take care because I don't know if this is true, okay? So endless love, happiness, money, privilege, attention, mention, acknowledgement. He knows. He is charming, brilliant, outstanding, and he likes empathy. As it manipulates and exploits the others. Okay? So he feels shame, envy, and contempt. All right? He is full of contempt to you. He's really terrified about becoming emotionally dependent. Because there is, when he becomes very vulnerable, okay, Tosca, let's go on, because I think it's quite. So, slide by slide, we're going to explain all your anticipations. This is about the types. This is the overt type. The overt type is also called with a thick skin. It means that his grandiosity, arrogance, and lack of compassion, and anger, and control, and restlessness, and exploitation, and selfishness is endless. Okay? This is one type. And then covert, the umbrellas. It's covert. I mean, it's more difficult to spot. Okay? He's more anxious, shy, vulnerable, and insecure. He may feel guilty. He may be secretly angry that he doesn't show. And he's compliant, but it's just because he wants to use it. Okay? But he becomes compliant. He may be good. And then the malignant. Okay? We spoke before about the malignant. A psychotic person that has lost the sense of reality and whose identity is totally split, and has also antisocial behavior and sadism. and paranoid deviations. There's somebody that wants some explanation about this, or is that clear? We can go. My training was about a lot of things, and I'm not going to explain all of this because you're tired. But there are different viewpoints. They're quite difficult to understand that the Otto Cameron psychotherapy is about understanding that the narcissistic disorder is rooted in a typical organization, a borderline organization, which means that guys that are represented in this kind of organization, they are very insecure, unsteady, they sway, and they don't have a steady image of themselves and of the other. So the narcissistic holds his self-esteem in order to gain power, and he uses the others to gain this power. Cohort is more compassionate to narcissism. It is about what I said before about the holding. So young people, young babies not having enough holding. So no proper model of visualization, which is very important, because if a baby can dream and have ideas and projects and say, oh, I am going to be a big house. Oh no, I am going to be the doctor, or you have my pics laid down there, and I will be the doctor. And no, I will be the most amazing cook. Look, Mom, I have cooked a pizza. Wonderful. It's my pizza beautiful. And that's what happens when there is a healthy training of the babies. And Nancy McWilliams speaks about the need for validation. These people are badly looking for being validated, because otherwise they will not exist. Okay. So they want to be praised, and they want to protect their authenticity, because the authenticity is that they feel nothing. That's all. This is an answer to what you have been asking until now. How do you treat a narcissistic person? I will try just to read it because it's very clear, so we go through that in about 1 minute. Curry held that treating narcissism disorder was impossible since a narcissist cannot have a transfer. I mean, a certain kind of therapeutical relationship. But nowadays, the scientific community successfully treats narcissists. It can be treated. At least not the malignant, but the others. But the process is slow, complex, and it depends on how much a person is at a high or a low level of functioning. In another conference, I will explain what functioning is. So we first take care of symptoms, and then we lead the person to self-reflection, so to evitate the future pains and to understand which triggers elicit this pain. And that is our primary defensive mechanism, because we want them to understand that can be smarter than one's own automatic responses. And then negotiate with strategies to be in touch and cope within the needs, because the narcissistic person do not stay in touch with themselves. So if your mom was not in touch with their needs, how could she listen to the needs of the babies? Okay, that was her problem, maybe. And then become mindful, present. And learn how to inhibit all styles.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Patient, shame and envy, and then face traumas to develop trust, and then take care of the inner child. Develop empathy for other people, and give birth to other peace. It is a process, and it works. That's what.
I was waiting for this.
And well, it's very. I just brought two people, two very famous people. Donald Trump is a narcissistic person. One thing that we don't see written in his biographies is that he now is taking care about separating indigenous mothers from their children, right? One of the things that he's doing. And you know what happened? When the child was separated from his parents. So he's enacting his trauma. And that's, that's amazing because the people that just know the public appearance, no idea of where it comes from. And it comes from all the things that you see he has gone through personally. He's both a successful person and full of failure. He failed so many times. Failure after failure after failure. So this is Donald Trump, and this is Kim Jong-un. He has been one of the most cruel dictatorships in Korea. It has killed thousands of people in that way. No empathy, just cruelty, no understanding. So, and that's very funny. That's one. Well, you were asking me about narcissistic women, and there you go. The body system, I'm sorry, it is nowadays narcissism model. Because girls, they always have to look after this model, and this model is always pink, always perfect, and always fake. So this is a very common narcissistic model for women. And also, Anishi always shows exhibitions where young people are called to be on stage and show how famous they can become. And this happens. And you see this. This is the depressive person, this is a narcissistic person, and this is a true mirroring of the narcissistic that he himself, like Dante. Or this is a couple where he does not ever look at her. He himself, she does not exist in the mirror. So this is a worldwide society where narcissism dominates. What? Well, there is something good. And I held it for last to give good news at the bottom. Okay? Yes, healthy narcissism is wonderful. It happens when parents, they really consider and give space to their baby's needs. So this develops competences. He can acknowledge and admire others. He can believe that other people's contribution is valuable and precious. He does feel gratitude and appreciation rather than guilt and shame. And he prioritizes himself, then we empathize with others. He embodies a self-agency, self-esteem, resilience, persistence, and perspective. I have two symbols, the apple symbol and yes, and a colibri that is a very successful, positive narcissist. You know, he feeds 1,000 flowers, and since he has to feed for 8 hours a day, he needs a lot of food to develop all the energy, because he uses his wings all the time. This means effort that gives reward. Where colibri arms, they are beautiful harvests because they don't only work to feed themselves, but they spread all the flowers everywhere, and so they feed the earth. So for me, this is a very nice symbol for positive narcissism, where a person, a being, works, yes, for himself, but also for everybody. That's a positive narcissism. I just want to thank all my teachers and all the institutes to whom I know everything, not only what I know, which is nothing, but what I am, which is a great job. So thank you. I'm sorry that you're tired. But I really thank you to have been here up to the bottom. And now we can go home. Wherever you want to stay in touch, you can ask for stuff. I am a member. And she will give you my contact. So if you have curiosity or if you want to keep on asking, please do that. You're warmly invited to do it. Thank you.